So today I'm going to make a short video on how to replace my garboard plug. If it seems like an odd name, it was to me. I referred to it as the drain plug on the stern of the boat for draining the boat when you come in from being out in the water. And I wasn't surprised that a couple of the parts places here in town didn't know the formal name garboard plug as well. So I did manage to find one. It's a lot more expensive than the one online, but I need to get ready to go out this coming week. So I don't know if you can see that or not, but there is the flange and the plug. And the part you did miss was an all-day battle yesterday trying to get the seized plug out of the flange. I bought the boat and it was stored in dry storage, so the previous owner didn't really need to take the plug out every time he removed the boat from the water. And it seized into the flange. There was quite a bit of water in the bilge of the boat when I brought it home from my last trip to Stewart Island. You can reference that video as well on my channel. So yesterday I tried to remove the plug. Actually 2 days I've worked on it. I sprayed some penetrant on the old plug, heated it up with a torch, sprayed some more penetrant on it, and then proceeded to round off the plug, the faces of the plug, trying to get the plug out. Then I used a pipe wrench and vice grips, and I was just chewing up the plug. So then I had to get the angle grinder out, and I ground new faces on the plug, and tried again with a wrench and an extension on the wrench to get the plug out, and it was just not coming out. So then this was an all-day battle for me yesterday and a lot of cuss words. So I went to proceed to drilling out the plug since it had snapped off and it was flush with the flange. Started to drill it out with small drill bits, and then worked my way up to almost the exact diameter of what the plug was. And this is the result of my all-day battle. And as you can see, I got it pretty close, but there's still remnants of the old plug stuck in the threads. I tried to chisel those remnants out to no avail, and actually ground up the flange a little bit, trying to get it perfectly flat so that I could drill into the plug. There was about half of the face left, or a quarter of the face left, and it was making my drill bit jump around. And I will proceed to put in the new one. My steps today are going to be to turn on the battery switch, raise the out drive so I'll have some room to work, and then clean up the face where the old garboard plug was. And I will get right back to you when I get to that point in the process. So some of the supplies I'm going to use, tools and supplies I'm going to use today for replacing the garboard plug. are going to be a Scotch-Brite disc on my drill motor to prep the surface where the new flange is going to fit. I've got some alcohol to clean off the area before I apply the adhesive sealant. I received various recommendations on how to do this. I was fortunate, I received one recommendation to use 5200 on this, but anybody that knows, that's pretty permanent. And I was fortunate with this one that 5200 was not used because it was easy to remove the old adhesive, fairly easy, with just a scraper. So the place I bought the part from recommended that I use this, which is 3M marine adhesive sealant, 4200 fast cure. So I'm going to use that, and of course we've got our replacement garboard plug, and I'm going to use a spatula to fare out the adhesive sealant around the garboard plug. I'm also going to squirt some of that in the screw holes. There's 3 screw holes that attach this to the stern of the boat. I was fortunate when I removed the old one that the screws that were in it were not stripped out, so I'm pretty sure that they'll be able to go in and hold tight when I reinstall the new one. I hope the holes line up. It looks like a similar plug and flange. So I'm also going to squirt a little bit of that adhesive sealant in the screw holes just to set those nice and tight. It's supposed to be removable if this ever happens to me again. I will say that brass is maybe a good choice for salt water, but it sure isn't a very good choice for being a hard metal. It rounded off quite easily, was soft when I tried to remove the old plug. So I hope that if I remove this every time I come back. The boat's not in dry storage now, it's stored on the trailer in my yard. So as soon as I pull it out of the boat launch, I always remove it. So the longest it's ever going to be in there is just an overnight trip. I asked if I should put some anti-seize on the plug and was told no, that's probably a bad idea. These plugs are a plumbing style fitting where they're tapered, so the farther you put them in, the tighter the seal is. It was recommended I could use a non-hardening gasket material if I needed to, but I think this I'll try it without any anti-seize compound on the plug first and hope I don't run into the same problem again. Anyway, I'll get back with you as soon as I get down in there and get to doing on this. Okay, so I've gone into the garage and added a few tools and equipment to my project. First one will be the the screw gun. And number 2 will be, of course, some safety glasses. 3 will be some disposable gloves for working with the adhesive. And last but not least is a headlamp. This headlamp by Petzl has been absolutely the most amazing thing I've ever purchased for a headlamp. I plan to do a review on it in the future. I think I've had this thing for 3 or 4 years and have never had to replace the battery. I get, depending on how much I use it, I can get up to a week on a charge with this thing. Amazing. Petzl NAO Plus. Anyway, I'm going to add that to the project because it's a little bit dark down there and I'm old and almost blind. Just kidding. It's just like to be able to clearly see what I'm doing. So I'll get set up and get right back. Okay, safety glasses are on and I'll start cleaning up this surface. Alright, that looks like that should just about do it. Now I will I'll clean up the area with the alcohol. And a little bit inside the hole because that was pretty dirty. I'll say one thing, it was nice to kind of pull this flange out because with the plug in the flange, it still leaves about a half an inch or a quarter of an inch of liquid in the bottom of your bilge. And when I removed that, I was able to spray the hose up in there and rinse out the bilge really well. So this plug is right in line. The bottom of the hole is right in line with the very bottom of the bilge. So all right, we got that cleaned off. We're going to let it dry. I'll give it a dry wipe with a dry tissue here in a little bit to remove any residual film, and then we'll see if the holes line up, and if they do, we'll apply our adhesive and install the flange. Okay, now that I've wiped the surface area where I'm going to mount the flange, I'm going to take a little bit of rubbing alcohol and wipe down the face of the flange so that it's nice and clean and has no oily residue on it. One thing I noticed is that the holes line up pretty close. I'm also cleaning off the edges of the flange so that the adhesive will be able to form around the periphery of the flange, a bead around that. One thing I did notice is that being an ex-machinist, you would think that these 3 holes in the flange would be drilled equally so that they would line up with the 3 holes in the hull, no matter which way you turn it. But it appears that these holes only line up in one orientation. If I spin the flange to the next hole lineup, they don't. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So I'm going to let this flange dry off a little bit, give it a dry wipe, open my adhesive. I was a little disappointed too that Sea Dog did not supply 3 new screws to attach this flange. I'm lucky that the old screws that were in it appear to be in decent shape, but you'd think I think I paid nearly $40 for this flange, which is about 3 or 4 times more expensive than it was online. But like I said, I didn't have time to wait for one to be shipped. You'd think for about $40 that they would include the 3 brass screws that attach it to the hole. But should be no worries. I'll use the 3 screws that I took out of the old flange. Like I said, the threads held and were not stripped in those, so they should hold this fine along with the adhesive. When the boat's in the water, all the pressure on this fitting, this plug and this flange are inward towards the bilge of the boat. So the water pressure kind of aids things to hold in, and I wouldn't expect anything to come out, especially with the adhesive in the screw holes. So I'll get my adhesive ready, my gloves on, my spatula, and we will get to installing this flange. Okay, upon abrupt refamiliarization with my old screws that I removed, I've determined that I had better take a wire brush to them and clean them up, and then I'll give them an alcohol wipe so that they will adhere to the adhesive, or the adhesive will adhere to them. So I'll be right back after I clean these up. Okay, I got my screws all cleaned up and wiped off with alcohol. Put some gloves on. First thing I'm going to do is squirt a little bit of this adhesive into the screw holes. I probably should send a probe into these holes to make sure they're clean. Or maybe I'll just blow them out. We'll see here. If I get close enough, I'll whack on my head. There we go. That cleaned them out, the screw holes anyway. And I'm going to apply a little bit of this adhesive. This adhesive is not cheap either, by the way. I think it was over $20 for this little tube. Okay, and I think what I'll do is apply the adhesive to the flange, and I should have lined up the holes first. Let's see if I can do that now. I think I'm right on the money there. All right, there's my 12 o'clock. I'm going to apply a liberal amount of this adhesive. In order to do that, I should have cut my hole bigger in the adhesive nozzle, but patience. This stuff is fast cure, so I better get busy. Thick to squeeze out. Okay, got this baby gooped up pretty good. Perhaps a little over gooped, but I can always clean it off later. So we will go ahead and install this lightly. And I will see if I can get these screws to line up. There's one, loosely aligned. Two started, and come on, number 3, line up for me today. Okay, looks like they might be closely to being aligned. I'm gonna squirt a little goop around the chamfer of the screws. Sorry for all the huffing and puffing. I'm laying on one side trying to get this done. And since these screws don't seem to be in the right spot, I'm going to tighten them a little bit at a time separately. See if I can get them all started. in. Don't strip on me, baby. I have no more screws and I won't be able to pull you out. I think we're successful. Leave that alone. All right, they're in there good. What I'm going to do is let this set up and come back later and fare around the edges of that flange. But I will wipe off these screw heads first. Let's see if I can get this wiped off a little bit. I hope I never have to do this again. There we go. A little bit of alcohol does the trick. See if I can clean out these screw heads. Get in there. Well, clean up, I guess. If I did it right, they'll never have to come out again. My lifetime. I hope whoever has this boat after me appreciates all the trouble I've gone through with this. This is a 3-day ordeal. Okay, we're gonna let that set up. I will come back and fare around the edges. My full-time day job has got me on graveyard shift one night a week, so that is Thursday night, 11:45 p.m. till 7:45 a.m. Friday morning. And today is Wednesday, so I like to get my body in the clock of going to bed early in the afternoon and waking up real early in the morning on Thursday morning so that I'm sleepy by 11 a.m. or noon when I have to go to bed. I've had some challenges with that, quite a few challenges. I'll run through those in another video sometime, but so far this is installed and it looks like I've got good squeeze out all the way around the fitting, around the flange, and so I will put my tools away and come back tomorrow morning, since I'm getting up real early, and fare around the edges of this flange, and it should be all done. Well, sorry about not getting a finished photo on this job, but here is the finished garboard flange a couple months later. Everything seems to be holding up fine. No leaks, so the job's done.